amazing video. This one's on solving linear equations. Now, as you can see from the, hang on, I haven't changed this from the last lesson. As you can see from the syllabus reference, just below where I'm deleting, this isn't actually a part of the syllabus itself, but it's a lead into quadratic equations, which is the next chapter. I'm tired. So, you know how to do these. We've been doing this for so many years. You try and get all your variables on the same side by adding or subtracting, and then solve like normal. If you've got fractions, you try and get rid of the fraction by multiplying both sides by what's on the bottom, which means this lot kind of moves up here, and then you try and get everything on the same side. So let's actually do these examples. I forgot to do my paper. I have to have my paper. Let's actually do these examples. So let's start off with example A. Oh gosh, that's thick. We've got 6x plus 5 equals 4x, take 9. Now I usually have a look at both unknowns and I ask myself which one's the bigger. The bigger is the 6x, so I take the other one to join it. Otherwise I'm just going to get a negative coefficient in front of my variable, and that just makes things slightly extra hard. So what we're going to do is we're going to subtract 4x from both sides. So you may choose to write this in minus 4x minus 4x. 6x plus 5 take 4x, we'll end up with 2x plus 5. 4x take 9 take 4x is just negative 9. Now we're up to something that looks really easy to do. So my x is here, it's multiplied by 2, we've got a plus 5 after it. I need to get rid of the plus 5 first. We do that by subtracting 5 from both sides. You may wish to write that down. Minus 5, minus 5. I don't actually usually write these, I just go straight to the next step. 2x plus 5 take 5, well that's just 2x. Negative 9 take 5, that's negative 14. Then I've got 2 times x equals negative 14. I'm going to divide both sides by 2. And we end up with, the 2's cancel out, x equals negative 7. Now this question on the right, we've got a fraction, and we hate fractions unless we can like simplify and cancel down. We can't with these. There's no kind of simplifying to be had. Technically you do differences 2 squares, but that wouldn't help us simplify anyway. That would just be really hard. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of the fraction itself by multiplying both sides by what's on the bottom. So I'm going to multiply both sides by this whole 4x take 7. And I'm going to end up with my 4 take 7x, which is on the left-hand side, equals 1 times this 4x take 7. Expand those brackets. Well, it was just a 1 out the front, so who cares? 4 minus 7x. Yeah. Equals, well, 1 times 4x is 4x. 1 times negative 7 is negative 7. Now I'm at the point where I'm looking at my variables and I'm trying to figure out which one's got the largest number in front of it. So this is negative 7. This is positive 4. Positive 4 is bigger than negative 7. So to get to the negative 7x to the other side, I'm going to add negative 7. I'm going to add 7 to both sides. Plus 7x to both sides. And we end up with 4 on the left-hand side. 4x takes 7 plus 7x. That's 11x takes 7. Now I've got x on its own, even though it's right on the right-hand side, as you know, no worries. I'm going to add 7 to both sides, get rid of that annoying 7. And 4 plus 7 is 11. We've got just 11x on the right-hand side because negative 7 plus 7 cancels out. Divide both sides by 11. And we end up with 1 equals x. Fairly simple. The next part of this exercise then takes us through changing the subject of a formula, which is a really handy skill to have. If you're thinking of going into standard. If like there's any chance you're going to drop down to standard, then this is particularly good skill to have. Obviously for advanced, it's also a good skill to have. Oh no. There we go. So we're going to fiddle around with these, even though we don't know what this is. We're going to fiddle around with these until we end up with x equals something, just like we fiddled around with these until we end up with x equals something. Here we had an actual number for x. Here we're going to have an expression. That's the only difference. So let's look at example A. We've got y equals 4x take 3. Now I want x on its own. So we're going to get rid of the minus 3 first, and then we're going to get rid of this times 4. So how do we get rid of that minus 3? Plus 3. Now we don't actually know y plus 3 because we don't know y, so we've got y plus 3 equals 4x. We now want to get rid of that 4, same as usual, divide. And you can see that we've got y plus 3 all over 4 equals x. That's it. We have to leave it there. We don't know anything else we can do with that. We don't know what y is, so we can't do any simplifying. We just leave it like that. Question B. We've got y equals x plus 1 over x plus 2. Now, just like in this above example where we multiplied both sides by what's on the bottom, we're going to do the same here. We're going to multiply both sides by x plus 2. X plus 2. Because on the right hand side, the x plus 2 on the bottom, x plus 2 on the top, they cancel out. On the left hand side, we've got y outside of x plus 2, because it's y times x plus 2 equals x plus 1. Now I'm going to have to expand that left hand side. Why did that one not show up? Nope, okay. I'm going to have to expand that left hand side, y times x, well that's just yx, or xy, doesn't matter, plus 2y equals x plus 1. Now, I now need to group my x's. I've got yx here, I've got normal x there. I'm going to gather them, it honestly doesn't matter if you went left or right, the negatives will work out the same in the end. I'm going to get them both to the left, I think. So I've got to subtract x from both sides. Now this isn't going to be an easy one because I've got my yx plus 2y. Lost connection, give me a moment. X plus 2y minus x equals 1. Yx minus x, I'm going to factorize. I'm going to have x outside of y minus 1, and I've still got my plus 2y hanging around like a bad smell. This is going to be easier if I get rid of that plus 2y straight away. So I'm going to subtract 2y from both sides. So I've got my x outside of y take 1 equals 1 minus 2y. I now want to get rid of this y take 1. This x was multiplied by this a lot, so I'm going to divide both sides. And now they cancel out. I've got x equals, and I've got 1 minus 2y on y minus 1. Now you may ask what the point of that was. Well, we were literally asked to change the formula, the subject to x. So even though this looks just as bad, if not worse than this, we've been asked to do it. That's it. That's the moral of the story. Do what you're told and shut up. Enjoy this exercise.